Every winter, you look at your gas bill and ask the same question. Does it really have to cost this much? Every dollar you burn in January is the price of a truth you were never told. Amish homes in the 1800s were held at a more stable temperature than today's gas-heated houses using a fraction of the fuel. Fired once a day. 18 hours of radiant heat delivered from stone and clay walls that absorbed the fire and released it slowly through the night. No gas line running underground to a meter that spins faster every February. No electric thermostat cycling a furnace on and off all night, while the heat it produces rises straight to the ceiling and escapes through every gap in the envelope. Just physics. The physics of thermal mass, a principle understood by Roman engineers, refined by medieval builders, applied by Amish craftsmen, and systematically removed from American building culture the moment a gas distribution infrastructure had enough reach to make purchased heat more convenient than built-in heat. The gas industry did not defeat the masonry heater on technical merit. It defeated it on the same ground every industrial system defeats its competitors. It made itself easier to install, easier to build, and impossible to own outright. What it could not do was make itself more efficient. That contest, thermal mass versus forced air, has never been close. And the Amish, who never entered the billing relationship, have been winning it without a monthly statement for 200 years. The masonry heater is not a fireplace. This distinction is the single most important thing to understand before anything else about this system makes sense. And it is the distinction the heating industry has most successfully obscured by using the words interchangeably in popular culture. A fireplace is a combustion chamber designed to exhaust heat up a chimney. It is thermally inefficient by design. The draft required to pull combustion air through the firebox and expel smoke also pulls the majority of the fire's heat out of the room and up the flue. A well-designed fireplace might deliver 15 to 25% of its fuel's energy as room heat. The rest goes up the chimney as hot exhaust. A masonry heater is a combustion system designed to do the opposite. The firebox burns at extremely high temperature, hotter than a conventional wood stove or fireplace. Because the burn is fast, complete, and oxygen-rich, that intense short fire produces almost no smoke and almost no unburned carbon because the combustion is so complete. But instead of exhausting that heat immediately up a flue, the exhaust gases are routed through a long serpentine channel system built into the heater's body. A maze of brick and stone that extracts the thermal energy from the exhaust gases before they reach the chimney. By the time the combustion gases exit through the flue, they are near ambient temperature. Almost all of the fire's energy has been absorbed into the stone and clay mass of the heater itself. That mass, which can weigh between 1 and 3 tons in a full-sized installation, then radiates the stored heat slowly and continuously into the room for the next 12 to 24 hours. One fire, all day and all night. The thermal mass of the masonry heater is not simply a large object that holds heat. It is a precisely calibrated thermal battery whose discharge rate is determined by the relationship between the mass of the material, its specific heat capacity, and the temperature differential between the heater surface and the surrounding room air. This sounds complicated, and the heating industry has every incentive for you to believe it is complicated. It is not. The principle can be stated in one sentence. A large, dense, heavy object heated to a moderate temperature will release that heat more slowly and more evenly than a small, light object heated to a high temperature. A forced air furnace heats air to 140 degrees Fahrenheit and blows it through ducts into a room. That air rises immediately to the ceiling, stratifying the room temperature with warm air above and cool air below, where the people are. The heat dissipates within minutes of the furnace cycling off, requiring the furnace to cycle on again. The masonry heater heats a 1 to 3 ton stone mass to between 150 and 200 degrees Fahrenheit during the morning fire. That mass then radiates heat at a surface temperature of 80 to 120 degrees, warm to the touch, not hot, for the following 12 to 24 hours. Radiant heat does not stratify, it moves in straight lines from the warm surface to cooler surfaces and bodies in the room, the same way sunlight warms a person on a cold day, without warming the surrounding air first. The people in the room absorb the radiant heat directly from the heater's warm surface. The floor absorbs it, the walls absorb it. The room holds a stable, even temperature that does not fluctuate with thermostat cycling, because there is no thermostat and no cycling. There is only the slow, patient discharge of a stone battery charged once each morning. The construction of an Amish masonry heater followed principles that had been refined across 3 generations of practical building before the gas distribution infrastructure arrived to make the knowledge economically inconvenient. The selection of materials was the first decision and the most consequential. The firebox and the serpentine channels required materials that could withstand repeated thermal cycling, rapid heating to high temperature followed by gradual cooling without cracking or spalling. Fire brick, a dense high alumina refractory brick, was the standard material for the firebox lining and the channel walls in contact with the hottest combustion gases. Beyond the firebox zone, standard clay brick provided thermal mass at lower cost, its dense composition storing heat effectively even at the lower temperatures of the outer heater body. The exterior surface and the face that people touched and leaned against, and that delivered radiant heat into the room, was often finished in soapstone, tile, or smoothed clay render, materials with high thermal emissivity that radiated heat efficiently from their surfaces. The mortar was refractory clay mixed to a precise consistency, too wet and it cracked during thermal expansion, too dry and it crumbled under the mechanical stress of repeated heating cycles. An experienced Amish mason mixed his mortar by hand, reading its consistency the way a baker reads dough. No laboratory test, no purchased additive, just accumulated knowledge of what the material needed to behave correctly across decades of use. The heater was positioned at the center of the house or at the intersection of 2 rooms, never against an exterior wall where thermal energy would be conducted directly through the building envelope to the outside. The mass needed to discharge into the living space, not into the winter air beyond the wall. Every placement decision was made in service of one objective: delivering the maximum fraction of the morning fire's energy into the rooms where people lived across the longest possible time window at the lowest possible fuel cost. The wood fuel management system that supported the masonry heater was as carefully considered as the heater itself, and it is the element most commonly overlooked when contemporary builders attempt to replicate the system without understanding why it worked so consistently on Amish farms. The masonry heater requires a specific fuel profile to achieve its design performance. The fire must burn hot, fast, and completely. This requires dry, dense hardwood split to a consistent size, not the mixed, partially seasoned wood that performs adequately in a conventional wood stove, but fails in a masonry heater by producing incomplete combustion, excessive tar deposition in the serpentine channels, and a cooler, less efficient burn that does not fully charge the thermal mass. Amish farms managed their firewood supply the same way they managed every other farm input, by planning 1 to 2 years ahead. Wood felled in the current year was split and stacked immediately, then left to season for a minimum of 12 to 18 months before being used in the heater. A properly maintained farm wood supply always had 2 seasons of fuel in the stack: the current season's wood seasoning for next year and last year's wood fully seasoned and ready for use now. This meant that during any given winter, the Amish household was burning wood that had been cut and split at least a year earlier. Wood with a moisture content below 20%, which is the threshold below which masonry heater combustion achieves the high temperature required for efficient channel heat extraction. The preparation of this fuel supply was not an extra chore added to the farm calendar. It was part of the annual cycle of a farm that understood energy as something you prepared for, not something you purchased when you needed it. The operating protocol of the Amish masonry heater was as precisely calibrated as its construction, and the discipline of that protocol was what separated a heater that performed consistently across decades from one that disappointed and was abandoned. The fire was loaded and lit in the morning, typically between 6 and 8 o'clock, using the previous day's accumulated heat in the stone mass as a preheating advantage. The channels and firebox walls still warm from yesterday, requiring less initial energy to reach optimal combustion temperature. The fire burned for 2 to 4 hours at high intensity. The air inlet kept fully open to maintain the hot, fast, complete burn required for efficient channel heat extraction. During this period, a correctly operating heater produced almost no visible smoke from the chimney. The combustion gases so completely burned within the firebox and channels that little unburned carbon remained to be exhausted. After the fuel load was fully consumed, the air inlet was closed almost completely, leaving only a small gap to prevent backdraft. The remaining embers burned down to ash. The heater was then left entirely alone. No adjustment, no additional fuel, no management of any kind for the remainder of the day. The thermal mass discharged on its own schedule, releasing the morning's stored energy in a slow wave that would carry the room temperature through the afternoon, the evening, and into the early morning hours of the following day. A second smaller fire could be loaded in the late afternoon if the outdoor temperature was exceptionally cold or if the house required additional heating for a large gathering. But in most Amish households through most of the winter, the single morning fire was sufficient. The discipline of the protocol, fire it hot, fire it fast, leave it alone, was the behavioral complement to the engineering of the heater itself. Both were required. Neither worked without the other. The economic arithmetic of the masonry heater over a lifetime of use is not subtle, and it is precisely the arithmetic the gas and heating equipment industries have the strongest incentive to prevent homeowners from performing. A masonry heater built by an Amish mason in the 1860s from locally sourced fire brick, clay, and stone had a construction cost measurable in materials and labor, a significant upfront investment by the standards of the era, comparable to several months of farm income for a complete installation. It had zero ongoing fuel cost. Beyond the labor of cutting and splitting wood from a woodlot, the farm was already managing. It had zero maintenance cost for the first decade of operation and minimal maintenance. Occasional mortar joint repointing, channel cleaning every few seasons for the following decades. A correctly built masonry heater has a functional lifespan of 50 to 100 years. Multiple Amish masonry heaters from the 1870s and 1880s are still in operation today. The gas-forced air furnace that replaced it in most American homes through the mid-20th century has a functional lifespan of 15 to 25 years. Its installation cost was lower. Its operating costs, the monthly gas bill, the annual maintenance contract, the periodic equipment replacement, compounds across decades into a sum that dwarfs the one-time cost of the masonry heater it displaced. The gas industry understood this arithmetic and structured its pricing and installation incentives to make the furnace appear cheaper at the moment of decision, while concealing the lifetime cost that made it dramatically more expensive across any period longer than 5 years. The Amish, who evaluated infrastructure by generation rather than by monthly payment, saw through this arithmetic immediately. They kept their masonry heaters, they kept not paying for heat, and the stone heaters they built in the 1870s are still warm every January morning, when the first fire of the day is loaded and lit. The masonry heater did not disappear from American building practice because it stopped working. It disappeared because the economic infrastructure built around natural gas distribution made it progressively less convenient to build, less supported by available craftspeople, and less visible in building codes and architectural education that had reorganized entirely around combustion appliances connected to utility supply lines. The process was gradual, and its result was total. By 1940, a homeowner who wanted a masonry heater built could find almost no mason in America who knew how to build one correctly. By 1960, the knowledge existed primarily in European building traditions, Scandinavia, Germany, Austria, where the masonry heater had never been displaced because natural gas distribution had never reached rural areas cheaply enough to make the displacement economically viable. The technology itself never failed. The craftspeople who built it were simply not reproduced by a building education system that had no commercial incentive to train them. The Amish preserved the knowledge not through institutional effort, but through continuous construction. Every generation of Amish households that needed a new home needed a new masonry heater. Every generation of Amish masons built one. The knowledge stayed alive because it stayed in use. Today, a revival of masonry heater construction is underway in North America among homeowners and builders who have discovered what the gas industry spent a century obscuring. A correctly built masonry heater, fueled by dry wood from a managed woodlot, heated by one morning fire and left to discharge through the day and night, is the most efficient solid fuel heating system ever built. It produces more warmth per unit of fuel than any conventional appliance. It maintains more stable room temperatures than any forced air system. It requires less operator attention than any combustion heater currently sold. And it lasts longer than any heating equipment the gas and oil industry has ever manufactured. The Amish did not preserve this system because they were sentimental about old technology. They preserved it because after 200 years of use, nothing better has been invented. Leave a comment below. What does your current heating system cost you per month in January? And would you consider building a masonry heater if you had the knowledge? If this breakdown changed how you think about what a heating system can be when it is designed to serve the house instead of the utility company, subscribe. There is more thinking like this where it came from.